Why 5% Succeed. This is the show where we discuss the latest marketing tips, tools, tactics, and techniques that grow your business quickly. I'm your host, Elaine Starling. I'm going to be sharing some training with you today that's called 3 Steps to Attract and Convert Your Ideal Clients. The step-by-step guide to differentiating your business in a crowded marketplace. So when you stop and think about it, and you just step back and look at the big picture of what's involved in growing your business, the steps are actually pretty straightforward, right? You need to attract clients, prospects, convert prospects into clients, right? And then you need to upsell your existing clients to additional products. You want to get as big a ticket through the door as you possibly can. It's kind of straightforward, right? It seems very simple when you think about the concept of business. So why does it have to be so hard? Why does it need to feel like it's such a chore to try and grow your business? Well, I want to show you some simple ideas, a simple approach that makes attracting and converting your ideal clients really fun and very easy for you. It's automatically in alignment with your own way of communicating, your own style, your business, whatever that business might be. This works for every single kind of business. Now, I have a lot of different companies that I work with, and it doesn't matter what company it is, whether it's a large Fortune 500 company, whether it's a small entrepreneurial company. My clients are usually complaining about 3 things. The first thing is always way too much information, right? Where should you focus? Where should you focus your efforts in order to get the best possible return on what you're doing? There are so many different marketing tactics. There is so much to learn about each individual tactic. My clients say they're really afraid they might miss something. You know, they might go off on a tangent and do something that would just delay important growth in their business. And it's all about maximizing effectiveness in their business. So the first thing is there's just too much information. There's too much to do. The second thing is there's too much to do, right? There's way too much to do. How do you get everything done in the limited amount of time you have available? When it feels like the demands on your time just keep increasing every day, your workload is doubling and the amount of time you have available seems to shrink. So how can you manage your time effectively so that you're working a lot smarter instead of harder? That's the second thing my clients always ask me. And the third thing is there's just a ton of competition out there. It's become a really challenging environment when the buyer has access to so much information. They can do a lot of research before they talk to you. How do you stand out in a saturated market? How can you position your business as something that's completely different and highly valuable when there are lots of other people who do something kind of similar to what you do? Well, if you're in business today, I bet those 3 challenges sound pretty familiar. You might be struggling with the exact same thing. And I'd love to help you resolve all 3 of those issues very quickly and easily today in the time that we have together. So stay tuned and take some notes. In fact, take a minute to download the handout that I provided for today's show. The link is posted in the comments section. If you don't have a chance to print out that handout, make sure you've got some paper and a pen handy so you can take some notes, because you're going to be taking notes on your business. This is an opportunity to do like a little mini workshop on your business. Now, I promised to talk about the 3 steps to attract and convert your ideal clients. And that means we're talking about marketing. I love marketing. But before we get into that nitty-gritty detailed stuff, I need to help you understand exactly what's going on in your ideal client's brain so that you know that this approach can be really effective for you and your business. Now, there are 3 levels to your brain: the primitive brain, the emotional brain, and the analytical brain. The primitive brain collects all the sensory information, your sight, sound, scent, touch, taste, all of that, and sorts for 3 different things. First of all, it wants to know, is this relevant? Does this make any difference to me at all? And most things don't. About 95% of everything you're exposed to, you just totally ignore. You don't even realize it's there because it doesn't have anything to do with you. You may have had this experience before. I sure did. I got to a point where I needed to get a new carpet, and come to find out, The carpet store that I contacted, they were right in my neighborhood. In fact, they were in a street. I went by there every single day. And I was like, you must be new to the area. They said, oh no, we've been here for 50 years. I couldn't believe it. I'd never seen their store, even though I'd driven past there every day, 2 times every day. I never knew they were there. There's so much that we just don't even recognize, and it's the primitive brain that's saying, forget about it. The second thing the primitive brain does is if there's too much information or things feel really confusing or overwhelming, it's scary. And the primitive brain says, this is just too much. Ignore it and walk away. Just avoid it. Get away from this as fast as you can. It's just too much right now. The primitive brain is there to protect you, right? And keep you safe. So if there's too much stuff, you're gone. Now, the third thing the primitive brain does is it goes, hey, this is really cool. This is really interesting. And it's right in alignment with something I'm interested in. I need this information. It's relevant to me. Well, when that happens to your primitive brain, suddenly it creates an emotion-laden, benefit-rich soundbite that forms in the brain, and it's pushed up into the second level of your brain. From the primitive brain, it gets pushed into the emotional brain. Now, the emotional brain's a little bit different. I call it emotional sonar. Think about it this way. All this sensory information comes in and it pings your primitive brain. Your primitive brain is saying, what does this mean to me? Is it relevant to me? Do I care? Am I interested? The emotional brain responds with, here's how I feel about this. So what does this mean? Here's how I feel. What does this mean? Here's how I feel. It's ongoing sonar that's perpetually happening throughout the day. Everywhere you go, everything you're exposed to. And the more comfortable the emotional brain becomes, the more likely the information that you provide is going to get kicked to the highest level of the brain, which is the analytical brain. The analytical brain is where you're evaluating the pros and cons. You're considering benefits. You're reviewing features. That's where you make the final purchase decision. Now, in the book, Pitch Anything, author Oren Klaff notes that one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make is that they approach a prospect with their analytical brain. I mean, think about it this way. You're an expert. You know your stuff cold. You want to show that you really, really understand your subject in incredible detail. Unfortunately, that approach often overwhelms your prospect's primitive brain. You scare them away accidentally. You have to walk step by step with your prospect in order to ensure that their primitive brain is on board and you're enticing their emotional brain before the analytical brain ever even gets involved. So let's step back and talk about the 3 steps to attract and convert your ideal clients. And you're going to see how this meshes perfectly with the 3 different levels of the brain. Step 1, make it easy for your prospect to understand the value you provide. When you communicate in a way that's really easy to understand, it's very reassuring to the primitive brain. So I want to give you a simple exercise that will help you avoid information overload. It's going to save you time, and it's going to allow you to differentiate your business from all the other businesses out there. I want you to think about what you can do for one of your clients. You've got a specific process that you go through. Your client's got a problem, and you help them solve the problem. Identify 3 or 5 big steps that are part of your process, the 3 or 5 big steps of your process, and name each individual step. That's called a framework. Those 3 steps, 5 steps, it's called a framework. And a framework is just a very simple summary of the big steps of your process. That's all it is. And there are dozens, thousands of examples around you everywhere you go in life. Let me give you a couple of examples here. Have you ever ordered anything online? Well, if you do, a really good website will walk you through the steps that it takes to complete your order, right? First, everything goes in the shopping cart, and they want you to review the shopping cart. And then they want your shipping details and information. Where is this going to go? And then they want your billing information, right? Step 3 is the billing information. And then step 4 is to review the shopping cart one last time. Warning, you haven't really ordered this. We're not really going to send it to you unless you approve it. And then you get that that next step. It sets your expectations because you know exactly where you are in the process. That's what the value of a framework. It's so important to help your clients manage their fear by setting expectations. And a framework does a brilliant job of that. Another kind of framework that we see all the time, take a look inside any book, like my book, and there's something called a table of contents. Well, a table of contents is just another kind of framework. It allows you to know where you are in the book and what kind of information you're going to learn at every step of the way. Even a story has a framework. You've probably heard of the hero's journey, right? It's the story arc. It's how the hero starts out with all this problem happening. Life was great and now it stinks. And they've got this disconnect that they have to find some way to overcome. And it's the journey that they go on and all of the challenges that they face and how they're able to finally overcome those challenges, what they've learned along the way, how they've personally transformed through this journey, and then how they return home a better, more fulfilled person. That story framework is called the hero's journey, and every story has one. Now, I've got a 3-step process that I teach in my online training and my group coaching. I teach the mindset, the message, and the media that brings in the money and creates a magnificent lifestyle. Frameworks surround us for a reason. Frameworks are very, very appealing to the primitive brain because they let you know immediately where you are now and where you are going. It's incredibly reassuring and empowering. So I want you to just take a minute to jot down one word for each step in your process. Just as a placeholder right now is fine. You can always use alliteration the way I do, like all of the different words in my framework start with the letter M, or some people like to have their process spell out a word, So you can do that later, but for now, just use a placeholder so you remember kind of what you're referring to, which step of the process you're referring to. You can always pretty it up later. Now, one of the biggest challenges that I find my clients have to overcome is this natural tendency to make things more complicated. And the reason for this is focus is fractal. The more you pay attention to something, the more detail you see. And the more detail you see, the more detail you notice, right? So you can go down and down and down and down and down. And if you know a lot about your subject, you've got something called unconscious competence. You're too darn good at what you do is kind of really what it means. You do so much automatically because you've already mastered the subject in detail. You've kind of forgotten that most people aren't on the same page with you. You instinctively come from your analytical brain when you talk about your topic. And that's a huge problem because when you make something complex, you make it instantly confusing. And remember, if it's confusing, that creates caution with the primitive brain. The primitive brain does not want confusion. The primitive brain wants clarity. Clarity promotes action. There's a really interesting study done where they wanted to see how many different choices did you want to give somebody in order to allow them to take action. 3 choices is the ideal situation. If you provide too many choices, people get stuck in analysis paralysis. They just can't decide. Clarity promotes action, and using a very simple framework is a fast way to establish clarity and allow you to very quickly connect with your ideal client because they're going to say, hey, this person understands that I'm right here and I want to be over there. Awesome. They get me. Now let's take an example. It can feel really, really hard when you know a lot about a topic. So let's take a topic that maybe you know more about than I do, because I really don't know this that well. Let's talk about climbing Mount Everest, and let's make climbing Mount Everest absurdly easy to understand. Now, I know Mount Everest is in a mountain range, and it's at a very high elevation, and it can be extremely chilly there. So step 1 is to wear suitable clothing for extremely cold conditions. And at high altitude, you're probably going to need an oxygen mask, that whole thing. Step 2, you need to be able to put one foot in front of the other. And step 3, you need to be able to go up because you're kind of going straight up. Well, obviously, climbing Mount Everest is more challenging than this. There are some more details, right? And your solution is more challenging than just 3 steps or 5 steps. You might think that you're dumbing things down too much for your clients, but you're not. The critical thing, the most valuable thing you can do is make your process easy to understand so that your prospect can make a fast decision. You're aligning with your ideal client's primitive brain. So you ensure that the information is relevant and interesting, because that is when it gets moved into your prospect's emotional brain. I'd love for you to share your framework ideas in the comments section here, and I'll get back to you on that and chat with you about that. Using a framework is one of the very effective techniques to make your information easy to understand. And I bet it was pretty easy. It was quick for you to come up with 3 or 5 steps for your process. You know your stuff cold, and you could just go, oh yeah, sure, you do this, you do this, you do this, you're done, right? There's some additional techniques that can make your information really easy to understand, but in the interest of time, I'm going to move on because we need to cover step 2. So first, you're going to make your information easy to understand. Step 2 is to make your information engaging. Now, you might struggle with this a little bit at first. A lot of my clients do, but we're going to walk through this process, and honestly, you will very quickly become comfortable with making your information engaging. I know a lot of people struggle with this because they think, okay, I've got to keep it easy, but then I got to keep it engaging. Those things are opposites, right? How do I balance that out? It's easier than you think. Let's look at the brain again. And remember, there are 3 different levels to the brain: primitive, emotional, and analytical. Primitive brain, it wants to know, hey, it's not relevant, just ignore it, or it's too confusing, walk away, or this is really interesting. Let's kick that up to the emotional brain. And when you communicate in a way that's very easy to understand, it's reassuring and empowering to the primitive brain because it provides control. The primitive brain immediately knows where you're going and what to expect. That feels good. It's reassuring. And then the primitive brain is willing to kick it up to the emotional brain. The emotional brain wants things to be engaging and interesting. In other words, it wants to play too. It wants to engage with you. Your prospects want to be involved in your experience. So how can you foster that kind of interaction with your prospects? How can you get them to follow the bouncing ball and actually play along with you? Okay, here's one simple tactic that you can use immediately to enthrall the emotional brain. What questions could you ask your prospect as you take her through your process? What questions could you ask your prospect as you take her through your process? Questions are a pattern interrupt. Your brain automatically engages. It is instantly compelled to find an answer to the question. So when I asked you, what questions could you ask your prospect as you take her through your process, your brain starts coming up with a question or two, didn't it? Right? You just start, it's on automatic pilot. Your brain automatically starts to play along with the question. That means your prospect will automatically play along with you and experience your process as you take her through it. Now, one of my favorite examples is to talk about going to a coffee shop like Starbucks, right? And when you go there, the barista asks you a series of questions. She invites you to play along with her. She wants to know first what size drink you want. Then she wants to know if you want it hot or cold. And she'll probably ask you if you'd like something to eat with that. Questions are a fast way to foster engagement. And engagement is incredibly important because that's what creates trust. The more engaged your prospect is, the more she's helping you create exactly what she wants. And the more it's involved that she is, the more ready she is to buy from you. She's ready to take it on now. So I want to invite you to share a question that you're going to ask your prospects during your process in the comments here, right below. I'm dying to see what questions you're asking, because some questions are more powerful than others, and I'd love to give you some feedback on your questions. There might be a way for you to amp it up a little bit. Now, questions are great, but the most important thing to remember about engagement, there's something that engages people more than anything else in the world: other people. We love people. We love to people watch. We love to see what's going on out there. And the more unique somebody is, the more different and unusual someone is, the more compelled we are to watch them. Somebody who is passionate about what they do, who loves what they do, is always much more engaging. Have you noticed that my event banner for Why 5% Succeed show says join in the fun? I'm a marketing geek. Are you kidding me? I love this stuff. It is just incredibly inspiring and engaging and entertaining to me. I think about it all the time. I want to learn about this all the time. I love creating marketing. I eat, breathe, sleep, dream, and I probably even bleed marketing, right? I am completely convinced that everything in the world is actually a form of marketing, and I bet I could prove it to you too. In fact, I know that you from birth are a marketing master. Unfortunately, most people forget about it and they don't understand how things really work. And I love explaining that to them because marketing is way easier than a lot of people think. Now, my clients love my style, even if it's not their style. Why? Because it's clear that I have a huge commitment to their successful outcome in every single thing that I do. Let me give you another example. I don't know about you, but I hate doing my taxes. I just find it so boring. If it doesn't make me completely pass out, I would much rather just rip my fingernails out than do my taxes. It's just excruciating. Well, my tax guy, Bob, loves taxes. He absolutely loves them. And it's so funny to get together with Bob on a topic that I really don't enjoy. And, he starts off with a small talk and we're just kind of catching up, right? But he always reminds me of a puppy balancing a treat on his nose. And he's just waiting to get his hands on my numbers. He just can't wait until I finally cut loose and give him the information so he can play with my taxes. It's not appealing to me, right? I don't want to do the taxes, but I adore Bob. I love his passion. I love his commitment. I love his expertise. I love his enthusiasm for what he does. And it makes the entire experience a lot more pleasant for me. Something that normally I do everything under the sun to try to avoid. I don't mind it when I have a chance to work with Bob. It's really fun. Okay. So what I'm trying to say here, probably ineloquently, but what I'm trying to say is the most powerful way to engage your ideal audience is to be yourself. Don't worry about looking just right or perfecting exactly what you're going to say. Relax and be yourself. It's you that your ideal clients really want because you are what engages them to begin with. Look, it's like the game of warmer and colder. You remember that game when you were a kid, right? You used to say, oh no, you're cutting cold, you're heading to Siberia, that's wrong direction, right? You're getting away from your goal. Oh, you're getting into tropics, it's hot, you're burning up, you're gonna explode, you're getting warmer. Your prospect, your client will do the exact same thing with you, especially as you're walking her through your questions that relate to your process. She will really appreciate that you're so thoughtful and so thorough and you're engaging her in that process. Don't be afraid to do the warmer, colder game. People want a chance to play with you. They have to know, like, and trust you before they're willing to buy, right? So when you make your information easy to understand, your ideal client immediately likes you. Remember, most people are trying to overcome information overload, right? There's just too much stuff. Keeping it simple automatically helps your prospect manage her fear, and she's going to love you for it. It's not too overwhelming. Then, when you make your information engaging, your prospect starts to trust you. After all, you're engaging her in the process to create exactly what she wants to buy, so you're saving her time. It's all your prospect's idea, right? So she's much more likely to trust the idea and to trust you. So if you recall what I said when we got started, that second big problem that your clients are facing is how do they get everything done? Well, engaging your prospect in your process allows your prospect to manage her time better because you're helping her maintain focus. Focus, focus, focus. That's so important. Let's move on to step 3. It's time to make your information effective. Step 1, make it easy. Step 2, make it engaging. Step 3, make it effective. We're in a new era of marketing. Most people, perhaps your competitors, just tell prospects about their products over and over and over again. That's it. They just keep saying the same thing over and over again, hoping that maybe eventually they'll convince them to buy, right? But that's not a very effective strategy during this age of information overload. Today's environment means that your prospects want to actually experience your product or service, and then they want to receive benefit from you before they buy. They want to sample, they want to get a taste of you. Every single interaction with you needs to benefit your prospect. And there are a lot of different ways to do that. Making the information easy definitely helps them manage their fear, and that's a huge benefit. Making your information engaging creates an entertaining, interesting experience that builds her trust. Maintaining that focus is another really important benefit. Now, making your information effective by solving a real problem for your prospect immediately positions you as a trusted authority, and it instantly engages her analytical brain. Even if she doesn't decide to buy right now, and only 3% of people are ready to buy right now, only 3%, 97% are not ready. So hitting them over the head, is that going to make them love you, or is that going to tick them off? It's going to tick them off. So when you're providing something that's really effective, your prospect feels great about her experience with you, and she's going to want more, even if she's not ready to buy right now. And she's much more likely to tell everybody else about how great you are and what a cool job you did. Now, this is a lot easier than you might be thinking, because you're a value adding machine. It's automatic for you to create value in every single interaction. And I'm going to prove it to you with a very simple exercise. I want you to take the handout, or if you don't have the handout handy, take a piece of paper and draw a line right down the middle of it. On the left-hand side, write problem. And on the right-hand side, write potential solution. So I want you to take a few minutes to brainstorm a list of problems that your ideal clients are dealing with. And these are all problems that you can help them solve. Okay. Then you're going to go back, and for each individual problem, you're going to brainstorm some potential solutions that you can offer to each one of those problems, right? There's usually a handful of alternative approaches that you use with your clients to solve their problem. So first, what's the problem? Then what's a handful of potential solutions? Pick one of those potential solutions and identify a series of action steps for that solution. You're going to teach your prospect how to do the action steps for that specific solution. You're going to provide the context of the bigger picture for everything that you can deliver, but you're going to teach one thing step by step, because it's a great way to allow your prospect to experience what it's like to work with you. You want her to know how easy it is to understand you as she experiences one of your frameworks. You want her to realize how quickly she can generate results with you by doing these exercises you've come up with, answering the questions you designed for her. She's creating a solution that's perfect for her own situation. She also gets to know just how quickly she can solve a real problem with your help, because you're so good at providing that step-by-step guidance. Making your information effective is all about what Frank Kern calls results in advance. You're solving a real problem through step-by-step training as a way of allowing your prospect to sample your product or service before the sale. Now, this approach automatically differentiates you from the competition. They're probably just beating your prospect over the head with all these buy now messages instead of providing solid, useful, applicable insight. Let me give you an example in my own world. One of my products is the ultimate frequently asked question and should ask question guide. How to write your book, create your web copy, generate unlimited blog posts, create captivating videos, and increase your social media connections with simple questions. Now, I can take just one of those things in the subheadline, and I can teach on that thing. So for the ultimate frequently asked question and should ask question guide, maybe I teach how to write your book as a free training. And I could break it down into specific steps and templates and fill in the blank stuff. But my prospects might want to increase their social media connections too, right? So I'm teaching one aspect of my product, but I'm letting them recognize the entirety of the value that the product can deliver for them. So if they buy the entire product, they'll see how to apply it in every single situation. I'm only going to teach for free one of the situations. Okay, I want to summarize this exercise again because I want to make sure that you caught every single step. Step one, brainstorm a list of problems that your ideal client is dealing with that you can solve. That's on the left-hand side of your paper. On the right-hand side, next to each problem, opposite from each problem, you're going to brainstorm a list of potential solutions, 3 to 5 different solutions that you can offer that will help to solve that problem. Then you're going to pick one solution and you're going to identify a series of action steps to teach in your marketing. That makes a huge, huge difference in everything that you're doing. Now, if you've got a solution already in mind that you're planning to teach, please post that in the comments section down below. I'd love to learn more about your business and what you're doing. So we're talking about making things easy, engaging, and effective. It's really simple, right? Does it feel maybe too simple, too obvious, too duh? Your ideal clients won't think so. Your ideal clients want to taste test the kinds of results that you can generate while getting to know, like, and trust you. The 3 steps to attract and convert your ideal clients are: first, make sure your information is easy to understand by providing a simple framework, 3 to 5 steps. Make your information engaging. Use specific questions and share your passion, your enthusiasm for what you do, your commitment for the outcome that they receive. Very engaging. Make your information effective by teaching a step-by-step solution to a real problem that your clients are having. Easy, engaging, and effective is the fastest and easiest way to differentiate your business in a crowded, saturated marketplace. I hope you found this information really useful, and I'd love for you to make another comment here below the show. I'd love for you to explain what you're going to implement that you learned today. How are you going to take what I shared with you and apply it in your business? Please take the time to connect and comment with me, and be sure to join me next week, Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, for more great training. I'll see you there.